A relationship is not something we enter by chance, nor is it held together by effort alone. It is an invisible agreement formed first in thought, then reflected in experience. Every connection between two people is shaped by the words they speak silently to themselves, the beliefs they carry about love, and the expectations they allow to live in their mind. When harmony is understood as a state of consciousness, relationships begin to unfold with greater ease, because life responds faithfully to inner direction. What we consistently think, feel, and affirm about companionship moves outward and takes form as cooperation, respect, and understanding. A relationship thrives when it is no longer driven by fear of loss, but guided by trust in divine order working through human interaction. When individuals recognize their own worth, they stop asking love to complete them and instead allow love to express itself through them. In such awareness, attachment gives way to freedom, and demands soften into appreciation. The energy of a relationship becomes calm and secure when both hearts are aligned with faith rather than doubt. Words spoken in kindness carry creative power, and thoughts held in patience shape circumstances that reflect peace. What appears as conflict often begins as a misdirected belief, and when belief is corrected, the outer situation responds accordingly. Love is never forced, it arrives naturally when resistance is released. A relationship is sustained by spiritual law, not by control or constant struggle. When one understands that harmony is their rightful inheritance, they no longer attempt to change others, but instead refine their own inner dialogue. This inner alignment allows cooperation to replace competition and clarity to dissolve confusion. Each person plays their part when they trust that the right actions will reveal themselves at the right time. There is a natural rhythm to relationships, and when one moves in tune with it, strain fades and mutual respect grows. Love expressed without fear becomes self-renewing and strong. True connection is built on recognition rather than possession. When appreciation replaces expectation, gratitude opens doors that effort alone cannot unlock. Every relationship mirrors inner belief, and as belief becomes generous and confident, experience becomes supportive and kind. Words of affirmation spoken within shape the way others respond, because life echoes the tones set in consciousness. When love is viewed as abundant, there is no need for jealousy or anxiety, and trust becomes the foundation rather than the reward. In this awareness, relationships become channels of growth and joy, reflecting balance, understanding, and quiet strength. Keynotes. Thought creates relationship experience. Inner harmony reflects outer harmony. Love flows through trust, not fear. Words and beliefs shape connection. Appreciation sustains lasting bonds. Thought is the first movement in every relationship, long before words are spoken or actions are taken. What a person consistently holds in mind becomes the silent instruction that life follows. Relationships do not begin with meetings, they begin with assumptions, expectations, and inner conversations that quietly prepare the way. When thoughts are guided by trust, respect, and confidence, relationships unfold with harmony and cooperation. When thoughts are ruled by fear, doubt, or insecurity, the same emotions find expression through misunderstanding and distance. Every experience with another person is a reflection of an inner belief seeking confirmation. A relationship mirrors the mental images one entertains about connection, loyalty, and love. If the mind expects rejection, it unconsciously invites situations that confirm that belief. If the mind rests in faith and self-worth, it attracts responses that align with peace and appreciation. Thought is creative, not passive, and it moves continuously, shaping tone, behavior, and emotional atmosphere. Even silence carries meaning when it is charged with belief. The unseen thought is often more powerful than the spoken word. When an individual becomes aware of their thinking, they gain authority over their experiences. Instead of reacting to behavior, they learn to respond by correcting the inner cause. Changing thought patterns alters emotional responses, which then changes the dynamic between people. Relationships soften when resistance is released, because life no longer meets opposition. Understanding replaces blame, and patience replaces urgency. This inner shift does not require effort from others, only clarity within oneself. Thought also determines the level of freedom within a relationship. Where thought is rooted in fear, attachment tightens and expectations become heavy. Where thought is rooted in trust, space is created for growth and mutual respect. Love expressed through calm certainty carries strength, while love mixed with anxiety weakens its own foundation. Every repeated belief becomes a habit of mind, and habits of mind become habits of experience. The mind that affirms harmony begins to notice harmony, respond with kindness, and attract cooperation naturally. In this way, relationships are not managed, fixed, or controlled. They are allowed to align. Thought acts as the unseen architect, arranging circumstances, timing, and interactions. When the inner dialogue becomes gentle and confident, outer experiences adjust accordingly, because life consistently follows the direction given by consciousness. This speech explores how relationships are shaped not by chance, but by inner awareness and conscious thought. It explains how beliefs, expectations, and self-perception influence emotional connections and communication. Rather than focusing on changing others, the speech emphasizes personal responsibility for inner alignment. It encourages listeners to recognize the power of mindset in creating harmony, trust, and understanding. The message is calm, reflective, and empowering, guiding the audience toward healthier connections through clarity, patience, and self-worth. A relationship begins in the unseen world of thought, where beliefs quietly prepare the path for experience. Every interaction carries the weight of expectation, and every expectation shapes response. When the mind is disciplined to trust, relationships become expressions of ease rather than struggle. This speech invites reflection on how inner dialogue influences connection, communication, and emotional balance. Instead of seeking validation, it encourages self-recognition as the foundation of mutual respect. The speech unfolds the idea that harmony is not demanded but allowed. It explains how fear-based thinking creates resistance, while confident thought invites cooperation. Through simple yet powerful insight, it shows how personal awareness transforms shared experience. Listeners are guided to observe their reactions, adjust their inner language, and allow understanding to replace conflict. The focus remains on growth, clarity, and emotional intelligence, offering a timeless reminder that relationships reflect inner alignment rather than outer control. Inner harmony reflects outer harmony. Inner harmony is the quiet agreement a person makes with life before life responds in form. When the inner world is balanced, patient, and assured, the outer world arranges itself to reflect that same order. Relationships, circumstances, and conversations are not random events, but visible responses to invisible alignment. A calm mind does not invite chaos, just as a settled heart does not attract constant conflict. What appears outside is first accepted within, and harmony begins as an internal condition long before it becomes an external experience. When thoughts are orderly and emotions are governed by understanding rather than reaction, situations unfold with greater ease. Inner harmony removes the need to control outcomes, because trust replaces anxiety. This trust is not passive, it is an active confidence that right action and right response will appear at the right moment. As resistance dissolves within, opposition fades without. People respond differently to someone who is inwardly composed, because peace carries a silent authority that requires no explanation. The outer environment adjusts itself naturally to this state. Disorder in relationships often signals disorder in belief. Confusion, impatience, and frustration point to an inner dialogue that is unsettled or divided. When the mind argues with itself, life mirrors that argument through delay and misunderstanding. By restoring agreement within, clarity begins to surface externally. Inner harmony simplifies choices, softens communication, and reduces unnecessary struggle. It becomes easier to listen, easier to wait, and easier to trust the unfolding of events. Emotional balance is not achieved by denying feelings but by understanding their origin. When emotions are guided by awareness, they no longer overpower judgment. A harmonious inner state allows feelings to pass without becoming commands. This self-mastery creates stability in interactions, because responses are chosen rather than triggered. Others sense this steadiness and respond with greater respect and openness. What once felt tense becomes cooperative, not through force, but through alignment. Inner harmony also determines perception. A peaceful mind notices opportunities where an anxious mind sees obstacles. Gratitude sharpens awareness of what is working, while discontent magnifies what is missing. As perception changes, experience follows. The same situation appears different when viewed through calm expectation rather than fear. This shift alters behavior subtly, and behavior reshapes outcomes. Harmony does not require perfection, it requires consistency of trust. When inner balance is established, timing improves. Decisions feel less rushed, and patience replaces urgency. Life responds by opening doors without strain. Delays lose their power to disturb, because confidence rests in order rather than speed. This steadiness invites cooperation from people and circumstances alike. What once demanded effort now unfolds with minimal resistance, guided by an inner sense of rightness. Inner harmony strengthens boundaries without hardening them. One learns when to speak and when to remain silent, when to act and when to wait. This discernment prevents unnecessary conflict and preserves energy. Relationships benefit from this clarity, as expectations become realistic and communication becomes sincere. Harmony within does not seek approval, it operates from self-respect. This self-respect naturally commands respect from others. The outer world is sensitive to inner instruction. Life reflects tone more than words, belief more and intention. When the inner atmosphere is calm, the outer atmosphere becomes cooperative. Circumstances align not because they are controlled, but because they are influenced by consistent inner order. Harmony attracts harmony because life responds to alignment, not effort. A person who cultivates inner harmony becomes a stabilizing presence. Their calm affects rooms, conversations, and decisions without announcement. Problems lose their intensity when met with composure. Solutions appear more clearly when the mind is not clouded by fear. This inner state becomes a constant guide, shaping experiences quietly but powerfully. As inner harmony deepens, trust in life strengthens. There is less need to prove, defend, or rush. Confidence settles into daily action, influencing how one listens, speaks, and chooses. The outer world mirrors this confidence through smoother interactions and supportive outcomes. What once seemed unpredictable becomes responsive, because life is answering a clear inner signal. Inner harmony does not eliminate challenges, but it changes the way they are met. Instead of resistance, there is readiness. Instead of fear, there is understanding. This shift transforms challenges into opportunities for alignment, rather than sources of stress. The outer experience adjusts accordingly, reflecting strength instead of strain. The relationship between inner and outer harmony is exact and dependable. When the mind is aligned, life aligns. When the heart is settled, circumstances settle. The outer world cannot contradict the dominant inner state for long. What is consistently held within must eventually appear without, because life follows consciousness with precision and faithfulness. Love flows through trust, not fear. Love is not strengthened by vigilance or sustained by anxiety. It moves freely only where trust is present. Fear tightens the heart and narrows perception, while trust opens space for understanding and patience. When fear enters a relationship, it disguises itself as protection, control, or constant reassurance. Yet its true effect is limitation. Love cannot expand where it is watched too closely or questioned at every step. Trust allows love to breathe, and in that freedom, connection grows naturally rather than by force. Fear is rooted in the belief that something valuable can be lost, taken, or withheld. This belief creates tension, because the mind becomes occupied with guarding rather than giving. In such a state, actions are driven by insecurity instead of clarity. Words become cautious, reactions become sharp, and silence becomes heavy with assumption. Love mixed with fear becomes conditional, dependent on behavior, timing, or approval. Trust, however, rests on the understanding that what is true and aligned cannot be threatened by time or circumstance. When trust is present, love expresses itself without effort. There is no need to demand proof, because confidence replaces doubt. Trust does not mean ignoring reality. It means interpreting reality without panic. It allows space for growth, mistakes, and individuality, without perceiving them as danger. In a trusting atmosphere, communication becomes honest rather than defensive. People speak to understand, not to protect themselves from imagined loss. Fear seeks control because it does not believe in order. Trust releases control because it recognizes balance. Where fear anticipates betrayal, trust expects clarity. This expectation subtly shapes behavior, tone, and response. A person who trusts listens more deeply and reacts less impulsively. Their calm presence reduces conflict before it forms, because fear feeds on reaction, while trust dissolves tension through steadiness. Love guided by trust is not passive, it is strong and composed. It knows when to speak and when to wait. Fear rushes to fill silence, while trust allows silence to clarify truth. Fear interprets delay as rejection, while trust understands timing. These differences shape the emotional climate of a relationship. One creates pressure, the other creates safety. Love flourishes where safety exists, because safety invites authenticity. Fear often mistakes intensity for depth. Strong emotion may feel like devotion, but intensity rooted in anxiety exhausts connection. Trust brings consistency rather than emotional extremes. It allows affection to remain steady instead of dramatic. This steadiness builds reliability, which deepens connection over time. Love becomes something lived daily, not something defended constantly. Trust also changes perception. Where fear looks for signs of threat, trust looks for meaning. This shift alters interpretation of words and actions. A delayed message no longer becomes a source of worry. A differing opinion no longer becomes rejection. Trust creates emotional resilience, allowing individuals to remain grounded even when circumstances are uncertain. Love supported by trust is flexible, not fragile. Fear isolates even when people are physically close. It builds invisible walls through suspicion and self-protection. Trust removes those walls by allowing vulnerability without self-betrayal. Vulnerability rooted in trust is not weakness, it is confidence in mutual respect. This confidence strengthens bonds because it invites honesty instead of performance. Love becomes sincere rather than strategic. The presence of trust also restores balance. Fear tends to exaggerate problems and minimize strengths. Trust does the opposite, recognizing challenges without losing sight of stability. This balanced perspective prevents minor issues from becoming major conflicts. Love remains grounded when trust keeps emotions proportional and clear. Trust begins within. A person who does not trust life, timing, or themselves will struggle to trust another. Inner fear projects outward, shaping expectations and reactions. When inner trust is cultivated, outer relationships adjust accordingly. Confidence within reduces dependency without reducing closeness. Love becomes shared rather than clung to. Fear demands reassurance repeatedly because it never feels satisfied. Trust accepts reassurance when offered but does not depend on it. This difference changes dynamics significantly. One drains energy, the other preserves it. Love aligned with trust feels lighter, calmer, and more sustainable. Trust allows love to move forward instead of circling the same doubts. It supports growth rather than stagnation. People feel encouraged to evolve rather than restrained by expectation. Love becomes a space of encouragement, not examination. Where trust leads, love follows with ease. Where fear leads, love struggles to keep pace. One opens paths, the other creates barriers. Love flows naturally when trust removes resistance, allowing connection to unfold with clarity, patience, and quiet strength. 4. Words are not merely sounds exchanged between people, they are carriers of belief, intention, and expectation. Every word spoken holds the weight of the thought behind it, and every belief quietly directs the tone in which words are delivered. In relationships, communication is shaped less by vocabulary and more by the inner meaning attached to it. When beliefs are supportive, words become bridges. When beliefs are doubtful or fearful, the same words become barriers. What is said is important, but what is believed while saying it is decisive. Beliefs form the lens through which words are interpreted. A kind sentence spoken from uncertainty may be heard as hesitation, while a simple phrase spoken with confidence may be received as reassurance. The listener responds not only to language, but to the emotional undercurrent carried by belief. This undercurrent influences trust, safety, and openness. When beliefs are aligned with respect and goodwill, words naturally soften and clarity replaces confusion. When beliefs are mixed with suspicion, even neutral words can trigger defensiveness. Repeated words reinforce belief, and repeated beliefs solidify patterns in connection. If criticism is expected, conversation becomes guarded. If appreciation is expected, communication becomes open. The mind prepares itself in advance, shaping responses before interaction even begins. In this way, beliefs speak before words do. A person who believes they are valued speaks with ease, while one who believes they must prove themselves speaks with tension. The difference is felt immediately, even if unspoken. Words also shape self-perception within relationships. The language used internally becomes the script followed externally. Inner dialogue sets the tone for outer communication. When the inner voice is harsh, spoken words often follow the same pattern. When the inner voice is patient, spoken words carry calm authority. Belief acts as the root, and words are the visible branches. Change the root, and expression changes naturally. Beliefs determine whether words are used to connect or to protect. Fear-based beliefs turn words into shields, limiting honesty. Trust-based beliefs turn words into invitations, encouraging understanding. Silence, too, reflects belief. Silence born of confidence feels peaceful, while silence born of fear feels distant. The same action carries different meaning depending on belief. Words spoken consistently become agreements within relationships. Promises, affirmations, and even casual remarks influence expectation. A relationship grows in the direction most frequently affirmed. When encouragement is habitual, growth follows. When doubt is habitual, limitation appears. Belief gives words longevity, allowing them to echo long after they are spoken. Beliefs also affect listening. A person hears what they believe is meant. If belief expects criticism, praise may be dismissed. If belief expects cooperation, even correction feels constructive. Listening is shaped by assumption, not just sound. Adjusting belief refines listening, and refined listening improves connection. Words aligned with clear belief create emotional safety. People relax when communication feels consistent and sincere. Mixed signals often arise from mixed beliefs. When belief and language agree, trust strengthens. There is less need to explain, defend, or repeat. Meaning flows without strain. Belief gives words their emotional charge. Without belief, words are empty. With belief, words influence mood, decision, and direction. This is why repeated affirmations within relationships slowly reshape dynamics. They are not magic phrases, but focused beliefs spoken aloud. Connection deepens when words reflect confidence rather than need. Need seeks response. Confidence offers expression. Belief determines which one leads. A relationship shaped by confident belief allows words to be shared freely without fear of misinterpretation. When beliefs are clarified, communication becomes simpler. Less effort is required to be understood. Words fall into place naturally, guided by inner certainty. Connection strengthens not through perfect speech, but through aligned belief. As beliefs become generous and steady, words carry warmth and assurance. Conversations become less reactive and more responsive. Understanding replaces assumption. Over time, this alignment reshapes the emotional environment of the relationship because words consistently reflect balance, respect, and trust. Appreciation is the quiet force that keeps relationships alive long after excitement fades and circumstances change. It is not expressed only through praise, but through attention, respect, and the willingness to recognize value where it already exists. When appreciation is present, People feel seen rather than evaluated. This feeling of being acknowledged creates emotional security, which allows connection to deepen without pressure. Bonds weaken not because love disappears, but because appreciation is forgotten and replaced by expectation. Expectation focuses on what is missing, while appreciation rests on what is present. When expectation dominates, relationships become heavy with comparison and disappointment. Appreciation lightens interaction because it removes the demand to perform or prove worth. It allows people to show up as they are, not as they are required to be. This acceptance strengthens bonds naturally, because it creates a space where effort is voluntary rather than forced. Appreciation invites consistency by making connection feel rewarding instead of exhausting. Appreciation also reshapes perception. When the mind is trained to notice effort, kindness, and intention, minor flaws lose their power to irritate. What once felt like an inconvenience becomes understood as human variation. This shift reduces conflict, because attention is no longer fixed on correction. Appreciation does not deny challenges, but it places them in balance with strengths. Relationships endure when strengths are remembered more often than weaknesses are counted. The expression of appreciation reinforces emotional trust. People give more freely when they feel their contributions matter. Acknowledgement encourages openness, while neglect encourages withdrawal. Appreciation acts as reassurance without needing repetition. It communicates value without demanding response. A steady recognition builds loyalty, not through obligation, but through emotional satisfaction. Bonds become resilient when appreciation is consistent rather than occasional. Appreciation also influences communication. Words spoken from gratitude carry warmth and patience. Tone softens, listening improves, and misunderstandings decrease. When appreciation guides interaction, correction becomes constructive instead of critical. People are more willing to hear feedback when they feel respected. This creates a cycle where communication strengthens connection instead of threatening it. Long-lasting bonds are sustained by emotional safety, and appreciation is one of its strongest foundations. Feeling appreciated reduces defensiveness and encourages honesty. It allows vulnerability without fear of judgment. In such an environment, trust grows steadily, because appreciation signals acceptance rather than scrutiny. Relationships last when people feel valued for their presence, not just their performance. Appreciation also counters routine. Familiarity can dull awareness, causing effort to go unnoticed. Conscious appreciation restores attention to everyday acts that hold relationships together. Small gestures regain significance when they are recognized. This awareness renews connection without requiring change in circumstance. What changes is perception, and perception reshapes experience. When appreciation becomes habitual, resentment loses space to grow. Gratitude redirects focus away from unmet expectations toward shared meaning. This prevents emotional buildup that often damages long-term bonds. Appreciation acts as maintenance, quietly preserving connection through changing seasons. Appreciation given freely often returns naturally. It sets a tone that invites reciprocity without demanding it. Bonds strengthen when appreciation flows without condition. Over time, this flow becomes the emotional rhythm of the relationship, sustaining connection through patience, recognition, and consistent respect.